What's up, guys? This is the Osmo.com night shift talking baseball. 2 slates for Wednesday, May 16th. So DraftKings is doing a 9-game early, and then I believe it's a 5-game late slate. There's 14 games total, so they're including them all, which is nice. More options on the early slate. A lot of weather concerns here, so I'm going to mostly touch on early games, and then we've got a really weird late slate with 3 studs, Scherzer, Sale, and Verlander going, all 11-8 or more. So this one will be tackled by Josh and I tomorrow morning. I will touch on each game a little bit, but there's not a ton to say with weather concerns. Weather will dictate a lot of these games. So let's just get right into this. Philadelphia and Baltimore. We've got Vince Velasquez versus Miguel Castro. We've got weather concerns in this game. I don't know much about Castro, but I just know that he's not going to strike out a bunch of guys. 10.3% swinging strike rate, 27% O swing percentage. Those are both fine numbers. But with the weather and how it looks right now, I'm not really looking to go to Castro. Probably won't go very long in this one. Velasquez is coming off a 6 innings, 12K performance in his last start against the Giants. This is a great matchup against the Orioles. He's 8,400. That's a price I'm willing to pay for him. He's got an 11.1% swinging strike rate on the season, so I'm looking to play some Vince Velasquez actually on this early slate. The Baltimore bats, I don't really like many of them, especially looking to play Velasquez. And then against Castro, I think you can go to Carlos Santana, Nick Williams, Cesar Hernandez, all the lefties, and then Rhys Hoskins, almost always in play. But again, got to keep an eye on the weather for this one. White Sox and the Pittsburgh Pirates. So it's Hector Santiago versus Jameson Taillon. So I had Carson Fulmer going here before, but Santiago's a fine guy to play bats against. And the problem is that Pittsburgh doesn't really have any power righties that I'm looking to play, so that makes me a little bit wary of playing Pittsburgh bats here. I don't really want to go lefty-lefty even against Hector Santiago. Jameson Taillon, he's such a confusing guy to me. Like, he's missing bats sometimes, he's getting chases, and then other times he just cannot miss a bat to save his life. He does limit hard contact, and this is a good price for him, 7,600. I do have a little bit of interest in him, but just overall, he confuses me as a pitcher. I don't want to target heavily against him, but Yohan Moncada for 4,300 against a righty is a pretty nice price for him. Cleveland and Detroit. Trevor Bauer, 12.8K versus Ryan Carpenter. Bauer is someone I like to use when he's going to be low owned. He's 12.8 here. That is such a tough price to pay. He can be volatile. I do have some interest in him here, but I don't know if I'll get up to that price when there are, I think, a bunch better point per dollar options, I should say. I don't want to target bats against Bauer, though. The Indians are rolling out Ryan Carpenter right now. So this looks like it could be a bullpen game for the Indians. I'm sorry, for the Tigers. So the Indians' bats are certainly in play. The Tigers' bullpen does have a 144 whip, second highest xFIP in the MLB. So I like Lindor, Brantley, Ramirez, Gomes, especially if you know Gomes is going to get in a bat or two against the lefty. He's been crushing lefties this year, and then Encarnacion. I think the Indians are one of the better stacks in the slate against that weak Detroit bullpen. Toronto and the New York Mets. We got J.A. Happ versus Zach Wheeler. This one has weather concerns as well, so I don't know if it's going to play. You're going to have to keep an eye on this one. But Happ against the Mets is sort of a neutral play for me. I'm giving Happ a pass for getting roughed up by the Mariners at his last start. The Mariners are one of the better teams, or one of the worst teams for targeting against in DFS. as far as pitchers go. I think he can strike out a bunch of Mets here. The projected lineup I'm looking at is not looking that great, so unless we see something different, then I do have a little bit of interest in Happ. Not looking to target Mets bats against him outside of maybe a Cespedes or Asdrubal Cabrera one-off. Wheeler he's sort of a neutral play for me as well. He's kind of whatever. I think I'd rather go with Taillon or Velasquez in his price range, so I'm probably off of Wheeler. The Blue Jays are a decent matchup for a righty. I don't really have a strong take on him. I think some of these lefties can get to him, like Smoke, Solarte, and Granderson. St. Louis and Minnesota. Mike McCollis versus Lance Lynn. McCollis, I was on him last start. He had a pretty decent start. He's got some pretty big strikeout stuff. He does have some pretty good strikeout stuff. He's got some pretty good strikeout splits as well. Like he could mow down these Twins lefties. I don't think it's that likely, but I'm not paying $11K for McCollis. I don't think he's up to that level yet, especially against left-handed hitters. So I'm not looking to start. I'm not looking to play him here. Also not looking to stack against him. There are a couple Minnesota bats that I think are in play here, specifically Max Kepler and Eddie Rosario. Those are two guys I like a ton. And Kepler's only 3,400 on DK, which he just never seems to get priced up, but he looks like a much better hitter, and love him here against a righty. Lance Lynn, speaking of strikeout splits, Lynn is at 27% versus righties this year, 14% against lefties. Depending on the Cardinals lineup, if they're going to roll out a normal lineup with a bunch of righties, Lynn actually makes some sense for 5.8K on DraftKings. The Cardinals, they do have a 5-run total right now, which is scary, especially with a guy like Lynn who will give up power. And it's really good weather in Minnesota for hitting. 80 degrees, some wind blowing out to center. So Lynn is obviously a GPP play, but someone that I think makes for a decent punt at pitcher if you're punting the SP2 spot. Maybe if you go with like a Bauer or one of the high-priced guys. Tampa Bay and Kansas City, we've got Jake Faria versus Jason Hamill. And I don't really have a strong take on Faria, but I do like Salvador Perez, Mike Moustakas, and Lucas Duda against him if they're in the lineup. Hamill has a 50% hard hit rate against lefties this year. One of the highest average exit velocities in all of the MLB against lefties this year. He's got a 275 ISO, a 554 expected WOBA against them. And I think he's been bad, but he's got a lot of regression coming. So I would even see going with like Brad Miller and Wendell and Denard Span, Cron, and Wilson Ramos. I do like a Rays stack. I think that Hamill is pretty awful. I think he's done. So I'm looking to target against him as long as he keeps getting starts. Rangers and Mariners. Actually, we're going to go to Brewers, Diamondbacks. This one's pretty easy. We don't want any of the pitching. At least I don't. No Woodruff for me. No Matt Cook for me. I do like some bats on both sides. On Arizona's side, I like Descalso, Peralta, Goldschmidt, and Pollock. So really those top four, I think an Arizona stack is pretty decent on this slate. It won't be super high owned either, I don't think. But those guys are priced very fairly on DK, even a little bit underpriced. And then Matt Cook, you can definitely target against him. 52% hard contact against righties this year, 38.5 against lefties. In other words, that just means he's getting hit really hard. And that's not the only stat I look at for stacking against, but it is one of the first ones I look at, hard contact, exit velocity, and Cook is a guy that I want to stack against. So Shaw, Yelich, Ryan Braun, if he's in. I like Lorenzo Cain leading off. Brewers, one of my favorite stacks on this slate. Rangers and Mariners, it's uncertain who's going to start for Seattle, so you're going to have to come up with your own plays as far as the Seattle pitcher and the Texas bats. And then Bartolo Colon going for the Rangers. You know the deal with Colon. Like, some games he's going to have it. He's going to be creating some soft contact or whatever. Guys will hit it right at the shortstop or whatever. But I'm going with some Seattle bats. I like Haniger, Cruz, Seager, and Segura. But really, this entire lineup for Seattle, like, Seattle's going to be one of the most popular stacks, and they should be. Cologne just getting pounded. Like, he's got some of the worst hard contact numbers in all of the MLB for the last couple of years. Cincinnati and San Francisco, last game of the early slate. I'm not into Suarez on the slate for 8,800. Not into Matt Harvey either. I do like Suarez against Suarez, though. I like Eugenio Suarez, the third baseman for the Reds, against Andrew Suarez for the Giants. Suarez has just been crushing lefties all year, been crushing righties too, 4,300. He'll be low owned in AT&T, and I like that a lot on this early slate. And then Matt Harvey going for the Reds. It's well documented how bad he's been this year and even last year. He was fine in his last start, but I am not buying it with Matt Harvey. Like, there's no Matt Harvey resurgence coming, I don't think. So I want to target against him. The Giants have a team total approaching 5 that I'm seeing right now at home, which is very rare for them. They're not a powerful offense, so Vegas does not believe in Matt Harvey, and neither do I. So give me some Brandon Belt, some Buster Posey, Andrew McCutchen. I mean, all these guys I love. So a lot to like on this early slate. Pitching is a little bit tough. I wish Bauer was a little cheaper. I wish there was one stud that made the slate a little bit better, but I'd probably go with a couple mid-tier pitchers and then pay up for hitting. Let's touch on this main slate very, very quickly. 5 games on DK. Yankees, Nationals. Some rain in DC. This one could be postponed, could be delayed. It's so far out that I don't know, but I'm just going to pretend like it plays, and then you guys can adjust. We'll talk about this more tomorrow morning. I'm not on Sabathia, but he's not a guy I usually target heavily against. The Nationals are a really, really awesome team with a bunch of good hitters on their team, so I'm all over Anthony Rendon, Zimmerman, Trey Turner, even Harper and a lefty-lefty. I'm not crazy about against Sabathia, but assuming that they get Sabathia out of the game at some point, Harper's probably not going to face a lefty for 4 at-bats or 5 at-bats, however many he gets. I will say the Yankees bullpen is really good at striking guys out, coming in and sort of shutting it down, so I'm not all in on the National stack, but Rendon, I think, is an awesome play for 3,800. Max Scherzer going for the Nationals. He's matchup proof. The Yankees are a decent strikeout matchup overall for righties. 23.4% of the time they're striking out against them this year. Quite a few Ks just going individually through the lineup. You know, Stanton and Judge will strike out. Sanchez, of course. So if he's not giving up power, Scherzer's going to have a really awesome outing. He's one of 3 studs. So it's really take your pick between him, Verlander, and Sale, assuming all these games play. Dodgers and Marlins. We've got Walker Buehler going up against Caleb Smith. Buehler is 8,500 here. He's been solid. There's no doubt about it. 6 innings pitched, 8 Ks in each of his last 2 starts. Gave up a couple earned runs in one of those. But now he gets a very underwhelming Marlins team who he should have success against. This is a pretty decent price for him. It's going to be tough to fit him in with a Sale or Scherzer or Verlander, but Buehler is got to be up right in the tier behind them. He is in price, and I think he will be in points as well. So Caleb Smith on the other side. I don't love the matchup for him, but I do love the price, and I also love that he misses bats. He's got a swinging strike rate of almost 12 this year. Getting a bunch of whiffs, which is nice. Top 30 in whiffs, actually. And then some of these Dodgers bats will strike out. Justin Turner back in the lineup does downgrade pitchers, righties and lefties. But I do have some interest in Smith. He's a guy I'll dig into more as the day goes on. So I like both pitchers here. Hitting, I'm not crazy about. Justin Turner is 3,700 against the lefty. That's pretty ridiculous. Matt Kemp under 4K. The Dodgers are super cheap, so I'm guessing they're going to have ownership, and that makes me like Smith a little bit more as a tournament play as of now. Oakland and Boston, we've got Trevor Cahill versus Chris Sale. Cahill coming off a DL after missing a start. He is third in whiffs per swing this year behind only Corbin and Max Scherzer. This matchup sucks, no doubt. He's 5,100 though. So, man, I want to see where ownership's going to fall. Check out the ownership projections as the day goes on with Cahill and the Red Sox stack, because I want whatever's going to be lower owned. Cahill's super volatile, can walk a ton of guys, can also strike out like any team. Like, I could see him mowing down almost any team. He's got that good of stuff when he's got it going. So with Boston bats right now, I'm either stacking them up like 4 or 5 man stack, or just completely fading them, because I think we know how this start is going to go for Cahill within the first inning or so. If he's striking guys out, if he looks good, if he's being efficient with his pitch count, then he's going to have a nice start here for 5,100. You don't really need a ton out of him. You just need him to basically survive at that price, because he allows you to do a ton with the rest of your roster, and you'd be fading some of the top-owned bats on the slate, which I'm sure the Red Sox are going to be. Sale on the other side, back-to-back games with a 20+% swinging strike rate. He's pitching insanely well, missing bats at one of the highest rates in the entire MLB. The A's aren't a perfect matchup. They do hit lefties really hard as a whole, but I'm not really concerned for Sale. He's 11-8. Probably my favorite out of the 3 as of now. That could change by tomorrow morning, but just for my first look through for the slate, I think he is my favorite. Of course, you got to keep an eye on the weather. I mean, this slate could look way different by tomorrow night. Cubs and Braves, I'm not in on Chatwood, not in on Brandon McCarthy. I like hitting here, of course. Albies, Acuna, and Freddie Freeman. I don't love a stack here because of the pricing. It's going to be pretty tough, but Chatwood's not a guy I'm afraid to really target against. McCarthy, same thing with him. 6.1% swinging strike rate this year. Not a pitcher I'd play. Just I don't play guys that don't strike guys out. I don't care how cheap you are. You got to have some sort of strikeout upside, and McCarthy does not really have that based on what he's done so far. The Chicago bats I like are Chris Bryant, Rizzo, Contreras, Kyle Schwarber. Baez has been crushing righties, so I could get to a Cubs stack here for sure. Even though individually I don't think they're my top plays. All right, last game of the night slate. Verlander going up against Garrett Richards. Richards, another one of those cheap guys. He's 5,800. It's an okay matchup actually against the Astros, who have yet to really heat up. Against righties this year, they have a 150 ISO, a 21.7% K rate, so they're not the same Astros as they were last year, at least not yet. I'm not really crazy about Richards, but he's another guy I could see playing in the Cahill range. Probably going to be lower owned than Cahill, although maybe with the 4-run total only for the Astros, he's going to be, I don't know, maybe they're going to have the same type of ownership. It's super early. I don't even know. Can't really say one way or the other right now, so at this point I'm just probably rambling. Verlander, kind of like Cole. He's expensive. It's not a great matchup, so he's probably my third out of the top 3. He'll probably be the lowest owned, so if you're into the game theory aspect, these top 3 pitchers are far and away above the other 7. So if you want to just take the lowest owned one and hope he goes nuts, I don't have a problem with that. All right, that's going to do it for these slates. Talked about 14 games, 9 early, 5 late games. Get to Osmo.com, check out our premium product. You get videos from Osimo himself, one of the top DFS players in the world. You get his rankings, our ownership projections. You get a bunch of good stuff, a lot of stuff that other sites aren't doing. So go sign up for the premium. Check out the MLB strategy video with me and Josh. Check out the live stream before lock with Josh and Chris on Wednesday. And hope you enjoyed listening. Hope this got you started for your slate. And good luck. Let's make some money.